This is the Boys Gen V podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Gen V Season 1, Episode 4, The Whole Truth.
Hey man, can we talk?
Please, no.
You can't run forever, you know.
Yeah, buddy, they're gonna find you. And hurt you again.
Just leave me alone, television's Jason Ritter!
Only this time, they'll hurt her too.
And it'll be all your fault you couldn't protect her.
No, I won't let them.
There's only one way to make sure, bro.
How?
Well, thanks, silly. You know who hurt you. He hurts everyone in the woods.
Dr. Cardosa?
Ding, ding, ding.
You know what you have to do.
No.
Well, you know what you want to do.
Just shut up, television Jason Ritter!
You have to kill him!
Kill him. Brought to you by the letter K.
Welcome back, fellow university-educated boys and girls. This is the Boys Gen V podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're on to the 4th episode of Gen V, The Whole Truth. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls. Yes, we're on to the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Oh, maybe a little bit other than the truth.
Yes. Tek Knight, the man who loves the hole in the donut.
He does. That's all of the whole
Quite
truth.
a lot.
Yes. This is our spoiler-filled discussion about the 4th episode, so make sure you've watched it before you join us for the rest of our podcast. We are going to go spoiler-filled, of course, this time. I've got a new sound effect to add to my buttons for the podcast, John.
Oh, go on then.
From episode 3.
Yeah.
Get it, got it, good.
Because it's just such a good quote. Get it, got it, good. It's so stoned. Love it. That, of course, from the wonderful, our favourite character, Emma, who features quite prominently in this episode.
She certainly does.
Looms large, let's say, over the end of this episode, definitely.
Yes.
But of course, as a reminder, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you pop on over to tvpodcastindustries.com. You can subscribe to the Boys feed there, which has all of our coverage of every Boys show, including Diabolical, the animated spin-off, Gen V, of course, the spin-off, and it also includes Invincible, the animated show, which is similar in style, at least, to the Boys.
Yeah, definitely.
All available on Prime Video as well. You can also subscribe to our main feed, TV Podcast Industries, where you'll get the coverage of all the other shows we're covering, including Ahsoka, which has had its finale as you're listening to this episode. We haven't recorded it yet because we're recording in advance. Wheel of Time, which also has its finale this week. Again, we haven't recorded that yet. And upcoming Loki Season 2 will also be on that feed.
Yes, absolutely.
Which we've seen, but we haven't recorded about yet.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we will be coming back with that, but we had loads of other shows to cover, so we're going to hold off on that for a little while longer.
Yes, definitely.
But we do want to hear your thoughts as well about all the shows that we're covering. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries.
Yes, and of course, just a reminder, fellow boys and girls, and of course, fellow quizzers, we will be continuing our Gen V student bar quiz with the 4th question later on in this episode. So just remember to gather all 8 answers together at the end of this season for the student bar quiz questions. And of course, you'll be in with a chance to get your hands on some Gen V goodies. And of course, for the Gen V student bar quiz, I will be joined by podcasting's Derek O'Neill.
I like it, John. I like it. We're going to talk about that as we get into the episode, I'm sure. But on to this episode. Once again, the show is developed by Craig Rosenberg and Evan Goldberg, and of course, Eric Kripke, who is the creator of The Boys TV series. The showrunners for the show, Michelle Fazekas and Tara Butters, based on the comic series from Garth Evans and Derek Robertson. Executive producers for the show are Eric Kripke, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg. This episode was written by Jessica Chow, who has the great honour of being the writer of Herogasm, season
Personal
3,
hero,
episode 6.
personal hero.
Personal
Let's
hero.
get that on TV, absolutely.
Yeah, Personal Gasm. Exactly. The director of this episode was Stephen Boyum. He has directed episodes of The Boys before. Back in season 2, he directed episode 3, Over the Hills with the Swords of 1,000 Men.
Very good.
Yeah. So, 2 alumni of The Boys over here in God's You, directing episodes of Gen V.
Excellent stuff. I'm sure they'll be adding their bronzed statues to the lineup there outside God's You campus.
Absolutely. Let's hope their heads don't get crushed by people with magnetism powers.
Absolutely.
John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Gen V episode 4, The Whole Truth?
Sure. On the instructions of Vaught International, supe-powered investigator Tek Knight brings his TV show, The Whole Truth, to the campus of Godolkin University. With the hashtag, Why Did Golden Boy Do It, still trending, he's been tasked with getting an answer to cover up the connection to the woods under the school. Concerned for her missing housemate Emma after Andre sent her to the woods, Marie tries to get help from a clairvoyant student, Rufus, to find her. But Rufus is a serial sex offender and tries to use his powers to assault Marie. With Jordan's help, Marie comes to her senses in time to make sure Rufus never does this again. Mm-hmm. Despite Dean Shetty warning him off, Tek Knight goes after the top 5. He interviews Andre, speculating that his relationship with Kate drove Luke over the edge. Or was it jealousy from Jordan Lee, or Kate being pushed from a promising career into the management of Golden Boy? He keeps following leads until he interrogates Marie Moreau, pushing her to get the truth of the story, that she was not the guardian of Godolkin. Jordan Lee actually saved her. With the story not going as planned, Tek Knight tries to pin it on Dean Shetty, but the Dean has learnt of Tek Knight's proclivity for filling every hole he sees, and blackmails him to leave the school and its students alone. Jordan is angry that Marie threw herself under the bus to tell the truth, but a spark is forming between them as they kiss. Emma returns. Sam used his powers, violently killing half of the security team in the woods to get them both to safety. After that, they hid out an abandoned drive-in, but after learning of his brother Luke's death, Sam starts to disconnect from reality. Puppets from a children's TV show and television's Jason Ritter encourage Sam to go to the home of the woods scientist, Dr. Edison Cordoza, and kill him for what he has done. As Sam threatens the scientist, his husband and son, Andre, Emma, Jordan, Marie and Kate arrive to subdue him. With the rest overpowered by Sam, Emma eats herself giant and holds him down. As the team tries to calm him down, something happens and Marie wakes up in bed beside Jordan Lee, not knowing how they both got there.
I hate when we get to the end of an episode and then something happens, and then they appear somewhere else, and we can't talk about how it happened. Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to wait to episode 5 to find out what happened there.
Definitely. Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
As it kind of just immediately cuts off.
Exactly. It was one of those moments where you're going, I wish there was a blinding flash of light there so I could write it in the synopsis.
Definitely.
But lots of stuff did happen in this episode, following on from last week's big cliffhanger at the end of episode 3, where Emma and Sam were left in the woods, about to be attacked by all the security guards.
Yes.
But let's get into our big moments from the episode. We'll talk about all of the big things that happened. We start out usually with our freshman or minor moment. I think this time we have to talk about Rufus the Rapist.
I think so.
Yeah. Here played by the actor who played Jack in Supernatural. We mentioned him when we saw his face in the first episode going, hang on a second, he seems to be quite a small role for him. Maybe he's actually just going to college and wants to pay his way.
Well, that's it.
Great to see Alexander Calvert here as Rufus.
With blonde hair this time.
With blonde hair this time. In Supernatural, he was a really well-loved character. He was a new character that came in the last few seasons of the show. Here, not so loved.
Not so loved. I mean, we've already seen Kate effectively telling him to whack his balls. Mm-hmm. So,
Jumanji. Yep.
And Jumanji, yes. So his nether regions are not getting the best deal at the moment.
No, rightly so, I'd say.
Rightly so, I think. Mm-hmm. But whether he has also healing powers, because despite hitting himself in the old plums repeatedly every hour, he seems to be kind of ready to go, even if it is non-consensual.
Yeah, like what a douche. You know, the whole setup for this is basically that Emma's been missing. Andre sent her into the woods, and Marie's looking for any help she can, while the main top three are kind of going, well, not really our problem. We're in over our heads here. I think even Jordan says, like, we're not the Scooby Gang, you know, we're not going to get ourselves a talking dog and a green van to go out and investigate this, so let's just leave it. But
Absolutely.
Marie's not willing to do that. This is her housemate that's gone missing.
Definitely. And I mean, little, you know, does Marie know as well, is that there are a few, dare I say it, small breadcrumbs, pointing to Emma that, Dean Shetty finds in the woods as well. So little does Marie know that maybe, you know, there are theories forming at, Dean Shetty's office around who may have caused the, skull effing, of the guard.
Yes.
But definitely here with Rufus, prior to his dastardly deed, we do see him making that connection sort of, or seeing her after Marie gives something of Emma's to him to make that connection.
Yeah, I think, again, it's probably one of those things with clairvoyants. They tend to say things to make connections between someone that you're looking for or a person that's passed on, so that, you know, they're very general. You know, in here, that's probably a bit of the joke, right? That he's a clairvoyant and she's saying, I'm looking for my housemate, and he's going, oh, I can see her. She's with a man or a boy.
That's true, actually.
But come closer and I'll tell you more details. And that's when he uses his other power, effectively, which is pheromones, to knock her out and take her back to his place.
Yes, and she wakes up there in Rufus's dorm on his beanbag, and with Rufus standing over her naked but for his dressing gown.
Absolutely.
Ready to do... to rape her, effectively.
Well, he's trying to, but luckily, she wakes up just in time. Jordan's knocking at the door to wake her up, because Jordan saw Rufus and her talking. Obviously, the reputation of Rufus has spread across the campus of Godolkin University, because Jordan was there pretty quickly to make sure nothing happened. But it is Marie that uses her powers to
engorge his member.
Yes.
As actually Rufus probably wanted, but to the point where we get his exploding penis.
Yes, we do.
Literally exploding all over Marie's face.
Absolutely.
Not as he wanted.
Not
either.
as he wanted, no.
So, yes, it's a bloody ejaculation from Rufus. And with Marie and Jordan, another hashtag enters the lexicon of Gen V. Yes,
it does. And yes, I did have to mute that. But you got it. You watched the episode. You know what the full hashtag was. Look, rightly deserved. And this is the kind of thing that you'll see in the boys' universe and in Gen V. You know, I mentioned it back on our coverage of episode 1, 2, and 3. It's where these writers choose a moment to put in a really shocking thing that happens, that makes it where it's so unexpected that you're not waiting for it to happen. And it's not just there to shock you. They've done a really good job in Gen V so far, in the 4 episodes that we've watched so far, of having those really tie into life in college, having it tie into these characters, rather than it just be something shocking at the beginning of an episode.
It's effectively a self-defense mechanism of Marie, like she would do even if she wasn't superpowers.
Exactly.
You know, she should probably try and knee him or kick him in the crotch.
Yeah.
And this is just, she has superpowers, and that's the first thing that flows within her body as a form of defense mechanism, which is what she's doing.
Exactly.
But it leads to, just exploding Willy.
Yeah.
Which just sounds like a horror of Free Willy.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. But I guess she doesn't even know herself that she's doing it. She knows she must be doing it, but it's totally instinctual. Yeah. And again, another terrifying use of supe powers
from Rufus.
Yeah. Well, from characters in this show. Yeah. You know, we've seen it already before, and now we have this other character who we don't even know how many other people that he may have done this to across the campus. But yes, won't ever be doing it again.
Absolutely. But I think we can move from one dodgy moment to another dodgy moment.
Yeah, and another dodgy character.
Yeah, our sophomore or medium moment of this episode. We have the arrival of Tek Knight.
Yes, Tek Knight, who's been mentioned throughout all 3 seasons of The Boys so far, as this kind of investigator that's on TV. But now we get a much bigger appearance from him here as he's
top investigator.
Yeah, investigative reporter, I guess, is what he is. But he's using these supe powers that he has to be able to find out who's lying, find out information that they may not want to release. I thought it was really interesting when we have him showing up at Dean Shetty's office, and very quickly we learn he knows exactly what's going on. He's fully aware of Vaught's plans. He's not one of these supes who has the wool pulled over their eyes. He knows exactly what's going on here, and he knows exactly what he's trying to do, which is that he's been sent here by Ashley from Vaught to cover up the connection between the college and this place, the woods.
Investigate it to cover up and obfuscate, but ultimately as well to find a patsy and destroy their lives. That is the aim of Tek Knight's game.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What does he say? I'm going to Johnny Depp someone so hard. Which is
find a patsy. Oh dear.
Topical, I guess.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Interesting character. Like he's totally horrible, as most of the characters in who work for Vaught are actually behind the scenes, I suppose, behind the mask that they wear in front of the public. But it's definitely an interesting power, this ability to dig and push, knowing what the actual truth is.
Yeah, and it's just really good the way it's done as well, whether it's how he kind of, figures out Dean Shetty has got something to hide, but also just his arrogance, knowing that he's got clearance from Vaught to do carte blanche. So, despite Dean Shetty saying don't go after any of the top 5 in the rankings, he goes after them, like one by one. In actually the superhero branding course, where he is being asked by Dean Shetty to be a guest lecturer to show his skills. He was a former alumni of Godolkin. So, showing his investigative skills. So I kind of really like that run through everyone that he did. For example, like with Andre, he goes, because he can smell Kate on his breath, knowing that Andre has been sleeping with Kate, all these different types of things. And, it's just quite well done, but he's obnoxious and horrible about it.
You see that he takes some kind of vindictive pleasure, specifically after going after the top 5. This is a character that, as I say, that's been mentioned before. It has a very successful TV show because, hey, if you like shows about detective work and who the murderer is, those hundreds of those types of shows. But if you have someone with superpowers over the top of it, able to determine, victim statements and able to sort through all of those twists and turns in a murder case, he's going to be massively successful. But I'm not too sure how successful he was at Godolkin University, whether he was in the top 5 himself or whether he was in the top 10 himself, but he certainly goes after these kids. He even says to Dean Shetty when she tries to tell him to not follow them, he says, well, there's hundreds of kids here. There's loads more that can just step up into those top 5 positions.
Well, that's it.
It doesn't matter really who these kids are.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, from Andre, Jordan and Kate, he doesn't find anything that he can use to pin on them around Golden Boy's caplosion in the sky.
Yeah. But he really tries to push it. Like Andre stands up, throws the microphone off and walks out of the room, telling him he's not going to be involved in this anymore. Jordan, he's pushing, saying, well, without the professor here, you would be nobody because nobody else is going to believe in your powers. With Kate, he says that she's given up an entire career for her. And then you have that moment where Tek Knight switches from slimy interviewer to this powerful guy where he says, if you take your gloves off, I'll take your head off, because that's Kate's power, that she can control other people through touching them with their hands. So, so she pretends that she's nervous and wasn't going to try and use her powers. We all know she was going to try and use her powers. But then he moves on to Marie Moreau and stands her up in front of the entire class, where again, she's a freshman
He
observer.
uses her as a volunteer. She doesn't actually volunteer.
Exactly.
He asks for a volunteer, but then just goes around the room and says, You.
Exactly. And again, as I say, she's a freshman observing this class of seniors. You know, this is all the rest of the characters we've got in the room here. They're all in a higher position than her, and she's only been in the class for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And he's having her stand up in front of them, reading her and pushing her until she admits that it wasn't her that saved Godolkin. It's Jordan that did it.
Yeah, she couldn't stop Luke at all, and Jordan is the hero. And he gets that. You see Dean Shetty sort of deflated by that, and Tek Knight just goes, "That's how you break a witness, folks." But Shetty is not impressed.
Not at all.
Marie storms out, but you see the chatter throughout the room because they've learnt the truth in that moment.
Exactly. Interesting moment between Jordan and Marie afterwards, though, where Jordan goes to approach Marie and tells her, why do you have to do the stupid decision all the time? You had an opportunity to tell people the story that I was involved, but you said you weren't involved. You could have said I was involved and you were involved, and given yourself the same bump up that you gave.
Some credit,
but
exactly.
But here you are making the stupid decision and making everybody question a lie now that you've told the world. Yeah.
But the other thing around Tek Knight following that interview, and what leads on to the rest of his story whilst at Godolkin, is that he has that conversation with Dean Shetty where he says, I can't use one of the kids as a patsy that I've interviewed, but I'm going to pin it on you, looking at Dean Shetty, because, well, you're not a supe, you're just human, and you're easily replaceable. Which leads to a bit of sort of nervousness from Dean Shetty.
Yeah.
But in fairness to her, she might not be a supe, but she's incredibly resourceful here, as we find out later on, as she asks to meet him without all his camera crew and his entourage, as she confronts Tek Knight. Firstly showing him a scan of his head, which is where he gets his proclivity for holes.
Yeah, he has a tumour going through his head, which seems to have led him to look for holes to fill, I guess.
Absolutely. And she uses that you're not going to find anything here, anything from the students or from me, and you're going to go back to Vaught and say there's nothing really to see here, to take us off the radar of Vaught.
And I must say, the comedy that they get out of all of the holes that he sees throughout the episode, even before we know it, we see him picking up a donut, and the way he looks at there's something odd going on.
Well, exactly. It's even just then the fact that his show is the whole truth as well. Just nice little touches throughout here. And then
the hand dryer, the skull that he picks up.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Dean Shetty showing him his compilation of greatest hits, as basically he goes around poking himself in an assortment of holes, as you say, from by holes, we should at least say they are inert holes, abiotic holes, whatever it is.
Or former biotic
it's
holes.
The tops of cones.
Yes.
It's the gas tank of a car, which was very funny.
Yes.
But the thing is as well, he's not particularly hiding this. Like, it was in the middle of a parking lot, the gas tank, and you see him having his wicked way with that ring donut after all, and then a skull. Sort of an ornamental skull that he picks up off a sideboard.
Yeah, but also we see him with the knot of a tree at the end of the episode, getting distracted as he's doing his closeout of the show when he is leaving Godolkin University. And then they do one final one where he's with a hand dryer that's on.
I know, that just felt Bernie.
But you do know that that's a joke, or at least it was to me, definitely a reference to the Mr. Bean movie where Mr. Bean's drying his crotch and looks like he's having sex with a hand dryer. And now we have Tek Knight here actually having sex with a hand dryer.
Actually having sex with a hand dryer, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that is not going to be comfortable.
No.
I mean, that's going to be like some degree of burn.
Definitely. I don't even want to think about it, John, and you've made it even more graphic than I would have thought about. All right. I think that's it for Tek Knight. He is a big character in the comic books. He is directly from Garth Ennis's comic books and expected to be in season 4 of The Boys, which is hopefully coming out in 2024, as long as they pay their actors. Now that they're starting to pay their writers, they will be back hopefully in 2024. So we will see this character again. Do you want to tell them, or will I tell them that we recognise there is a couple of traits, thankfully not the major trait of Tek Knight, but a couple of traits of Tek Knight that may be visible in me on occasion when we're doing the podcast? He has a very specific line that he says.
And it doesn't involve holes,
it does not.
Fellow boys and girls. I must at least state that. It does not involve a proclivity for holes.
I was really hoping you didn't need to state that, John. At this stage, we've been podcasting for 10 years. That's not at all connected to me. Really, it's Tek Knight's line when Andre walks out where he just goes, I'll find it in the edit. So,
exactly.
Which sounds like me quite often on our podcast when we
and
go
where he does
randomly off.
the kind of limerick to warm up his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Derek is always limericking before the show.
I am. Got to get that voice ready to go for the podcast, John, of course.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Yes, very good. Excellent. You've been listening, John. With that done on Tek Knight and him leaving Godolkin University for good, I would say. I like that he's done the investigation and then goes, sometimes the story that's been told is the story, and off he goes.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Great
stuff. We'll close it out with our major moment, our senior moment from the episode. Well, a senior in college is much younger than a senior outside in the real world.
I'm having a senior moment, kids.
Exactly. Well, I thought it was funny to call them this, but hey, we're going to talk about Sam and Emma, really. Last week, the 3 episodes ended with this moment as Emma and Sam are about to be confronted by loads more guards. And this week, we see the aftermath of the escape. Sam, it seems, using his powers to destroy all of the guards on the way out. But they do investigate what Emma may have done to the body and think that Sam may have skull-effed the guard.
Absolutely. But it was even... It felt like a docu fly through the brain of the guard as it kind of came through. I was half expecting it to be voiced by David Attenborough or something. You know, and here inside the brain of a human being, see, blah, blah, blah. You know, I just thought it was so funny. And just the whole sort of Dean Shetty was like, you know, who's done this? Who's this skull effery? And it was just really funny. But she does spot a small clue, a small little runner on the ground.
A little Cinderella moment here for Emma.
And we do see her asking Marie, where is Emma? So, you know, Emma at the moment, while she's clear, does have possibly Dean Shetty's suspicion hanging over her. She
does, because Shetty also says that she's investigated and found out that Emma hasn't been to a few classes as well. So she definitely has the eyes on Emma at the moment. So be a bit more nervous for her now.
Absolutely.
But Sam and Emma do get to know each other a bit as they go into hiding in the drive-in that himself and his brother Luke used to go to. Emma unfortunately has to kind of begin the conversation with Sam that actually her brother Luke is dead and that he killed himself. When Sam's pushing back, going, that's not possible because he's so powerful and he's pretty much invincible. Emma has to reveal that he killed himself. That's the way he died.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly doesn't take it well at all. You know, starts smashing things up, and again, sort of really going into a state of despondency and depression there. Yes. But thankfully, he doesn't take it out on Emma as that, you know, as the bearer of the bad news. And we do see that Emma seems to be good at taking him out of his funk, really. You know, and you see them bonding, especially where Emma's reassuring Sam, who's kind of a little bit freaked out by being outside of a cell. You know, it's the first time he's been outside in a long time. He's alone. And, you know, as he says, Luke was all that I had. But, you know, Emma's there for him, and she says that.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we have these voices starting to come into Sam's head, despite Emma's reassurance and her kind of comforting presence here.
I was getting a few flashbacks to last season of The Boys with Black Noir and his cartoon characters that were talking to him, because it does seem like something from kids' TV that's speaking and reaching out to Sam. And then we see Avenue V on television, a kind of a Sesame Street knockoff, I guess, for this universe, or maybe Avenue Q has got its own TV show in the US that I'm not aware of. But we see one of the puppets speaking directly through the television to Sam, along with, as they call him, television's Jason Ritter, urging Sam to go and kill the Doctor from the woods.
That's been doing all the tests. Because earlier in the season, we see him effectively malleting a large needle into Sam's spine.
Yes,
it is the spinal tap from hell, from what I could see, to be honest.
Definitely, yeah. A very interesting moment. I again, getting those flashbacks to what Black Noir did with the guidance of his cartoon character buddies that were in his brain.
Yes.
I guess Sam's having something quite similar here. I was kind of intrigued why they were calling it television's Jason Ritter. I guess he's been in a few shows that I haven't seen. As the son of John Ritter, most well known from Three's Company from the 70s when we were kids. Did loads of other stuff as well, but good to see him here. I know him as Jason versus Freddy's Jason Ritter, the movie that had Jason from Friday the 13th fighting against Freddy Krueger. He was in that movie, so I know him from that. I don't know him from TV. I think
that's about all I know him from as well, but in and of itself, despite not having the background or context of maybe sort of day-to-day American television, it was inherently funny.
It was.
In and of itself. Television's Jason Ritter.
Just because Sam keeps calling it out. Stop telling me that's television's Jason Ritter.
Exactly.
It's just funny.
It's kind of, in a sense, it's polite, but also a sort of an underhand dig at something being kind of ubiquitous across the television during the day, week and month. And not only that, but, month in, month out. So I kind of thought it was inherently hilarious.
Yeah, very good. Very good stuff. But that drives Sam off to go to Dr. Cordosa's house.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we see Dr. Cordosa arrive home from the woods, and his family are already taken captive by Sam. And Sam looks really aggressive here. He's starting to lose it.
Yeah.
Going after Dr. Cordosa's husband and his son.
Cordosa!
Cordosa, exactly. But it looks like Sam is going to kill all three of them. He effectively, we see how strong Sam is. He just taps the central island and it cracks in half.
Like, no, our interior decoration.
Absolutely.
Our centerpiece kitchen island is ruined.
Yeah,
I know, exactly. I'd be like well fuming if I was Cordosa.
I'd be terrified if I was Cordosa and Sam came into my house.
Well, that's true as well, but maybe I would sort of Hulk out on that point.
This is what translates John into his own superpowers. If you crush his island, there you go.
I turn into the Pink Hulk.
But luckily, the rest of the crew arrive. Andre, Marie, Jordan, Kate, and Emma all arrive at the house, all because Jordan, being the TA for Professor Brinks, had access to the addresses for Dr. Cordosa, who also works at the college, we hear.
Yeah.
So they all arrive, and we have Andre using his powers of magnetism to crush Sam against the wall, but not for very long, because Andre gets hit pretty hard by Sam too. Definitely.
I mean, the other thing about it is, ultimately Cordosa here, socially progressive. Gay man, married with his husband, and they have a child, raising a child. Socially progressive, ethically bankrupt, which is kind of like nice twist here,
Well, yeah.
I for me personally, because that can also be the way.
I come back to one of my favorite quotes that I heard from another podcaster who was talking about that obviously there's a proportion of all society that's gay, a proportion of all society that's LGBTQ, and can be other things as well, which means we've all got to accept as members of the LGBTQ plus community that there's going to be a proportion of that society that are well, right? So,
Absolutely.
So here we have a guy who is obviously a gay man married with a kid who is doing unspeakable things to people in the in
ethically
this,
bankrupt.
Yes, in the woods.
Should have his doctor title stripped from him.
Well, he almost got his life stripped from him here by Sam. Luckily, the gang come in and try and stop him. But we have another great battle here from Jordan. Not only is the island in the middle of the kitchen destroyed, also the tiling on the floors, John. You remember how hard that was to get done. So as Jordan stays his position, feels really like Colossus from the X-Men, just stand still, taking the punches from Sam, and then turns into his other version and fights back against him. So,
absolutely. I must say, I did like them all kind of, doing their thing against Sam to try and sort of, stop him from doing something he's going to regret.
Yeah.
Whilst all this is going on, you have Emma effectively stuffing her face with spaghetti and meatballs in order to then, quite calmly come out a lot bigger and just kneel on him.
It's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah, a little bit of Ant-Man, Giant Man type thing from the Marvel universe as she grows. But it must have been quite weird to look at from Dr. Cardoza and his family. He came home and specifically commented, "Oh, you've made my mom's sauce on the spaghetti and meatballs." And here comes this girl from college who walks in the door and just starts eating their dinner in front of them.
Absolutely.
But yes, of course, grows massively big, and she's the one that takes out Sam. I do like just sit on him. I kind of like that idea of just stopping a very violent kid here.
Yeah, just pins him, but then everything sort of blacks out here.
Yeah,
and we come back awake with Marie and Jordan in bed together, not knowing how they got there. Or at least Marie, I think she's the one waking up.
She does.
Marie not knowing where she got there, and a little bit freaking out that she's next to Jordan in bed, where it all seems quite nice. Although, we do see Emma walking in on them having a good old snog.
Yeah, earlier on in the episode we did, separately to that. So is this a dream that after the kiss between Marie and Jordan, have they suddenly gone into a dream where Marie's waking up in bed with Jordan? Don't know. We guess we're going to wait till next week.
It didn't feel dreamlike, but it could be.
Could be a dream. Could be something else. We will find out in episode 5 of Gen V.
Indeed, we will.
But yeah, it was. I think this overall was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, it was a great
really
episode.
good episode. Sorry, yeah.
Really good. Good stuff. Well, fellow boys and girls, they are our 3 moments for this episode. Derek, any notes that you may have?
Just one thing, I kind of mentioned it earlier on about the crushed head and the statue, but just to kind of quickly mention that Andre's anger as he comes out of that interview with Tek Knight, he walks outside into the campus grounds, walks straight over to his father, who was at the interview, effectively answering Tek Knight's questions and putting down his best friend, and crushes his head using his abilities. Kate comes up behind him afterwards, and Andre says, "I need you, I love you," to her. Just saying, it's quite a big change from the two of them falling into bed together after his best friend died.
That's true.
There seems to be a much closer relationship developing between the two of them now.
Yeah, definitely. He also tells her that his father, Polarity, knows everything as well. Yeah. And interestingly, earlier on, it is Kate and Jordan who are the two of that group that think they're in over their heads, and that the group really shouldn't be doing anything, certainly nothing stupid. But it's Andre, because of Luke being his friend, that wants to continue pursuing, and trying to find where Sam is, but also Emma, because he was the one that got her to shrink down and go in, but also Marie, because Emma's her dorm mate and friend. Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting that there's almost like a sort of a little bit of a split there in terms of the go-getters and those that just think, okay, this is way too big for us to do anything about.
Absolutely. And Emma is way too big for anybody to do anything in this
Yes.
episode. Anyway, John, do you have any additional notes for the episode?
Yes, the only other note I have is that Tek Knight, we've talked about some of the items. He did actually pick up and look longingly at a sellotape dispenser as well, or a sticky tape dispenser. Sort of, and I think he just rimmed his finger around the hole of the dispenser.
He did. That was in class with all the other students. And afterwards, you're kind of wondering how far would he have gone, because he's not, as you say, it seems to be a compulsion for
it's
him.
always on his mind, shall we say.
It is the whole truth and nothing but. Good stuff. I think that's it for our discussion about the episode of The Boys Gen V. Overall, John, what do you think of the episode?
I really, really enjoyed this. I would give this 4.5 bloody splurges out of 5.
Ooh, yes.
I just thought it was really good. I loved Tek Knight here, and just that creepy investigator sort of with the carte blanche from Vaught. Vaught is getting more and more creepy here in what they're doing. This notion of trying to maintain corporate purity and angelicness about what they do, but all behind this, it's just deeply intrusive, deeply awful across all of this. I mean, as I said, I've said ethically bankrupt a lot of the times here, whether it's Cardoza or whatever, but I mean, it extends to Vaught. And I mean, I think that's the point, is that this corporation and all its fronts, no matter what it is, whether it's in the superhero branding world, whether it's Godolkin University, all of them are just bankrupt, and really not as they appear. I mean, even Kate says, that it's like a Dr. Mendel-like clinic down in the woods, which is reference to Dr. Mendel, at Auschwitz, one of the Nazi extermination camps.
Right.
And you're just like going, it feels a bit like this. It's like, we will destroy lives, we will find patsies and all that. And I thought, the Tek Knight story going through this episode was really, really good. Yeah. I like the sort of the whole Sam and the puppets, just really good fun. And certainly, reminiscent of Black Noir. So whether there's some kind of similarity there between these two and their superpowers,
maybe,
who knows? And then
I think Black Noirs were because he had half of his brain blown off, wasn't it? Yeah.
But Sam's been tested quite intrusively, so maybe similar kind of trauma.
Cells,
I think as well, with the climax at Cardoza's home, effectively this group now is even more on the radar. We do see Shetty inquiring about Emma through here, but Cardoza, sees this group here trying to bring Sam down. Yeah. Hears them saying, we want to help you and all that. That abrupt and sudden ending of that scene to Marie and Jordan waking up in bed together, is really intriguing. So looking forward to episode 5. So for me, 4.5 bloody splurges out of 5. Really enjoyed it.
Great stuff. Yeah, me too. Really enjoyed this one. Can't wait for the next episode. This series has just been going gangbusters, as we'd say over here. It's been a really, really good show. And looking forward to the 5th episode. That's the halfway point of the season, weirdly, after only 2 weeks, John.
I know. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think we have finished our discussion about the episode itself.
Get it. Got it. Good.
We have got it. Good.
Yeah.
Let's go to the pub, John.
Well, let's go to the student bar.
Yes.
Sorry, I say it. Drinks are but 50p.
Oh, I'm going to have to change the name of all of the pub quiz, right?
Yes.
For this season. It is the student bar. Of
course
it
is the student bar. Fellow boys and girls, fellow quizzers, we're on episode 4, which of course brings us neatly, thankfully, to question 4, which is, what 2 signs does Tek Knight observe on Dean Shetty to show she has something to hide as he questions her in her office?
Ooh, very good.
And for a bonus point, what other thing does Tek Knight observe about her?
Ooh, 2 points this week, John. Interesting.
Yes, a 2-pointer.
Good stuff. We like 2-pointers here. Do you want to give the question one more time?
Sure. What 2 signs does Tek Knight observe on Dean Shetty to show she has something to hide as he questions her in her office? And as a bonus point, what other thing does Tek Knight observe about her? So, fellow boys and girls and quizzers, collect all 8 answers together and email them in at the end of the season to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, where you'll be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Gen V goodies. So good luck.
Absolutely. Very best of luck to everybody entering into that pub quiz. We are once again recording the episode a bit early, but we have got some feedback in on the first 3 episodes because they just came out on Friday of this week, or obviously Friday of last week. But first up, we got an email in from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow God U alumni defenders. When not indulging in its young adult aspects, these episodes stand with some of the best of the boys, especially the first episode. Saying this, these basically seem to be the world-building run-up to the fantastic gore fest to come, which I cannot wait for. 4 bad first periods, golden nuggets, and curious, intelligent men out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka."
Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait for how this is going to play out. But certainly, I think it's doing a great job at the moment after these first 4 episodes. And indeed, after the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before on one of the other podcasts that Prime Video always release 3 episodes at the same time. And it seems like when they get to the second season, most of the showrunners now know you're going to have 3 released on the same day, tell an arc across the 3 episodes. So I think it works really well here for Gen V to have all that time to spend with these characters before we move into the main story for the rest of the season. So, which we're definitely getting in episode 4.
Definitely.
Good stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Over on our Facebook group, Mindy Megan said, "Just when I thought nothing could touch that termite scene, enter an insecure theatre kid and cricket." Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and cricket touching probably quite a lot.
And that was just the first episode. Wait till you see what just happened in episode 4.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mindy. Jamie Lawson over on our Facebook group also said, "Just finished the first episode. Really loved it. There again, pretty much anything involving the boys' universe." Do you think they purposely cast Patrick Schwarzenegger as Luke because he looked like a young Homelander?
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe. Certainly, I think the sort of golden look of him, the kind of, chiseled, all-American university kid, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of think he's probably, I think I actually said this to Jamie on Facebook. I think they cast him because of the name recognition of Patrick Schwarzenegger, so you wouldn't expect that he would be the first character to die. So he's set up as Golden Boy, the top of the college, and then by the end of the first episode, he's already dead. And Clancy Brown, the only other person that's a named character in the show, set up. And I think he's in every trailer as well. He's dead by the end of the first episode. We've seen both characters back in the 4 episodes since then.
Absolutely.
We've seen them in flashbacks. We've seen them in other scenes that weren't in the first episode. So they are playing a big part in the series. But just, I think the shock of, here's the 2 people that I think I know in the show, and then they're dead by the end of the first episode, is what they were probably going for with the boys.
And
but,
I think,
but it is interesting. He looks like Homelander, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Patrick Schwarzenegger certainly looks more like his mother, Maria Shriver, than Arnie.
Yes, he does. He certainly wasn't busting out the weights every single day like his dad was. Definitely.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie. Dr. Bob Phillips sent us in some messages on each of the episodes that we released last week, episode 1, 2, and 3. First up on episode 1, he says, "I think if you've never seen The Boys or watched the trailers, the first 5 minutes would be quite enough to allow you to know if this was your cup of tea. Tea is about the only thing this show is unlikely to ever have. Balanced, pacey, surprisingly effective attacks on teen tropes alongside the familiar assaults on the whole soup genre, and the to-be-expected, but not predictable, major twist made it worth waking up a bit early to catch over breakfast, but one to avoid eating black pudding watching."
Well, yes, all that blood, certainly. I do quite like a black pudding.
Definitely, but black pudding is basically blood pudding.
Blood sausage.
Eating that
Yummy.
while you're watching the explosion of blood on screen, probably not the best idea.
Bit of berry black pudding.
Yep, that'd be great.
Oh,
hoping for some of that when we're over in Manchester. Yep. Good stuff. On to episode 2, Dr. Bob says, "I'd not quite realised the events of episode 1 were all the delights of Freshers Week, even wilder than most of the ones the UK will have seen, I hope. This is pushing beyond the limits I thought were already set out. The sea whale carcass, walk of cooked sausage shame, and octopus fun, but doing it without any sense of it being purely to gross out the audience. Maybe I'm just getting even more insensitive and cynical, but it really fits the uni feel of the characters. Darkness swirls under it all uncomfortably accurately. Low self-esteem, high achievement, and the manipulation coming up from it are, I hope, going to get some sort of almost happy ending. Though, given the previous series, probably not.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Dr. Bob. Yeah, it is really being carved out nicely here, for sure. Totally agree. That kind of uncomfortable, dark vibe at a university campus. I mean, whether it's from just, Vaught on the university trustees seemingly as awful as Vaught.
Most of them are board of directors.
Students, that whole sort of individual competitive rankings, which I think can only be just the invention of sort of the individualness of America. It really is so weird, and the manipulation coming from it, for sure.
Absolutely. So, it seems so far, that Gen V is taking a completely different pop at the world. The Boys was really a pop at comic books. It was a pop at superhero culture about Marvel and DC, written way before the MCU, but really poking fun at these major comic book studios and how they would write their characters. Whereas here, taking a pop at an in-universe university, it allows them to go in and poke fun at the tropes of what kids do when they go away from college, go away from home for the first time. And these kids are really powerful as well. So I do like how they're taking that and having a very different story to The Boys, but still feels of the same universe.
Yeah. And I should have probably said, I kind of meant the individualism of like the corporatism of Vaught rather than sort of the individualism of America. It's not the same, I guess. It's more, it's kind of putting that corporate metrics onto it. And it's just like, these are also kids, but they're not for Vaught, and even for the university, they're commodities that they want to use. Absolutely.
And to their parents who originally bought into the idea.
Exactly.
Injecting them with Compound V as well. Great stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, lovely stuff, Dr. Bob. Thanks. Dr. Bob also comes back in for the third episode. He says, we do need to talk about the lack of any awareness of STIs on this show. Unless in episode 5 we get an outbreak of super chlamydia, which infects 60% of the student body and 75% of the staff, in which case I'll take it all back. Absolutely, Dr. Bob. Yes. I can't imagine what supercharged chlamydia would actually do. It would be like COVID through the nether regions of the university.
Well, yeah, but it's also these kids, it would probably spread around the entire campus in about 35 minutes, maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Although in fairness, I think they do cover this with a YouTube video of the students talking about safe sex.
Absolutely.
And protection. So maybe that does combat the rabid spread of STIs throughout the campus.
Yeah. And I think if the story gets around the college what happened to Rufus, that might stop people wanting to have any sex at all in the college, just in case.
Yeah, but there's nothing like your first sexual health clinic. As a new member of a university, after at least the first term, night, year, whatever it is, whatever the frequency is.
That's true.
Dr. Bob also continues, they outdid themselves with gore and satire of US higher education / corporate charity in this episode, and yet still had space for the best meal service scene there's been in quite some time, and a genuinely powerful pause around trans identity and family responses. Really want a cameo from Butcher and pals towards the end of the series, perhaps causing a distraction while our principal protagonists fell the woods and free those within.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. Yeah. It'd be interesting if that happened, that we got Butcher and co arriving in.
I could see maybe Huey arriving. I'm not too sure whether Butcher would want to go back.
Because he
to
would have been
university.
an alumni of the university that had been sort of knocked down for Godolkin prior.
Possibly,
you know?
yes, of course, because he's not super prepared. Yes, potentially that's what could have happened. And they have front-loaded the cameos of basically everybody from the Seven so far. They've mentioned everybody at least from the Seven. So it would be interesting if some of the kids found out about the boys as they come and help them take back Godolkin University.
Definitely, and I think you're absolutely right. That moment with Jordan speaking to the parents is genuinely, I completely agree, a powerful moment.
Absolutely.
It's really good, and it's kind of just delivered in that matter-of-fact way by Jordan, that, well, I've been the same when I was in female form as opposed to male.
Absolutely.
He just never wanted a daughter.
I've always been the same person. Exactly.
So
exactly.
really good,
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob, and thanks everybody for sending in your feedback. We'd love to hear more. Email us into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. There's a spoiler post up there for each of the episodes as we're covering them. Pop in your thoughts on the spoiler post and we'll discuss them on a future episode. Great stuff. Please make sure that you share the podcast for the Boys Podcast, because sharing the podcast is, of course,
it's sharing the love.
It is sharing
without
love.
STIs.
Exactly. We will be back next time for Gen V episode 5. Welcome to the Monster Club.
Almost sounds like the Pleasure Dome, so I wonder if this is some kind of gasm on steroids.
Okay, I was thinking more of the Monster Mash, John.
Oh, maybe.
It's my innocent mind, apparently.
Sorry.
Not warped at all, John. But we are also finishing out the Wheel of Time on our main feed on TV Podcast Industries and Ahsoka this week on our main feed. And we'll be back next week with Loki kicking that off as well.
Yes. It never ends.
Well, hopefully not.
In a good way.
It's been 10 years, so hopefully it will never end. Thanks so much for joining us. I guess I'm going to be going off to see if I can find it in the edit of this podcast, see if I can get a good podcast out of it, John. What do you think?
I have faith in podcasting's Derek O'Neill.
Good stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you next time.
Yeah, great stuff, fellow boys and girls. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Gen V. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening. Bye.
Bye.